you? How's your leg?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, all good.
When you, in the role of control the controllables, is there any part of you that wishes maybe France had an easier run or had a much better performance last week as opposed to getting a scare like they did against Italy?
Yeah, part of me when I was watching it was thinking that. But look, we got to see what France were like when they were tested, you know, so we learned some good things from that. But look, we knew this game, no matter what happened in the first game, for us or for them, it's going to be a standalone game come Saturday, and it's one of those kind of one-off big games. We know that there's going to be big consequences in terms of the rest of the tournament, win or lose. But you know, we're really focused on this game, and it's good to be able to say that, because you know we were honest when we said we wanted to concentrate fully on Wales, and that's exactly what we did last week, which led to, you know, a decent performance. Especially, you know, first 30 was excellent, and then just dropped off a little bit, and it just takes a little bit. So good lessons in it for us as well.
With the absence of Tadhg Furlong, does that affect the Ireland game plan much in terms of outside the scrum and line out, what he had brought to the creativity in midfield and playing off you? Does that change a lot of your game plan?
No, because we trust in the guys that we've got behind them to come in and do a good job. I thought Finlay was outstanding, you know, during the game, and I thought Tom O'Toole did brilliant off the bench. So, like, Tadhg is world class. He's built up that world class status through his performances. But these guys can become that if they, you know, can perform like he has. So they've got the opportunity now for the next however many weeks Tadhg is out. And it's important for us to build that depth, because can't, you know, rely on one guy in that position going into a World Cup.
Johnny, what can you expect from France?
The usual, like what we've seen over the last few years, because they've had obviously outstanding success with whatever it is, 14 games in the bounce unbeaten. You know, they obviously, you know, Sean Edwards isn't the head coach, but you know, a lot of what he did with Wales, you can see it all over the team in terms of how they kick long, power, you know, real aggressive defence. So, you know, with some outstanding individuals littered through the team. So it's there's a full package really. That's the message, and we're going to have to be at our very best to get a win.
And last year you watched on from the sideline, you're out due to injury, so are you really raring to go to be able to play this year?
Yeah, I was saying today, this morning, I was just the last two Wednesdays before France over the last two fixtures, I've ended up pulling out, so you know, to get through today is great. So I can look forward to the game, hopefully no more hiccups, so I'm looking forward to it.
I read something funny today in rug.ie or .co.uk, sorry, about Six Nations referees and who the toughest players are to referee. Luke Pearce named you. He said that you've had a few run-ins and that you're a top player, but you push your luck on the field. What do you make of that?
I don't know.
Do you think you push your luck?
No, I just try and do what I think is right at the time. You know, obviously I can get caught up in the heat of the moment. Of course, you make mistakes. I didn't have any, you know, issues with Carl, and so maybe, you know, the decisions that, you know, I was happy when Carl was penalising us when we were giving away stupid penalties. I was happy when he was penalising them, because that's their job, and that's all. You know, if I feel they've missed something, I can get a bit agitated, and it's only for my team that I you know, feel for. So yeah, look, things happen on the pitch, and off the pitch I'd like to think that I can get on well with them, and that's the main thing really.
Yeah, you sort of have to have a bit of that in you to be a captain of the team.
Well, you have to control it at times, definitely. You know, there's been times where I've stepped over the mark too much, definitely. You know, there's been times where I've got it perfect. When you get it good, you know, you're never going to make headlines for getting it good. You're only going to, so you could have 10 games, there's no issues, and then you do once, and then it's all over the place. You go, why didn't anyone report about it when it was good? So, yeah, it's just the way of the world.
Thanks.
Johnny, you mentioned their unbeaten record. You've your unbeaten home record as number 1 against number 2 ranked teams in the world. Inside camp, does this feel like a blockbuster week?
Of course, yeah. It feels like a huge game, and it is a huge game. So there's no point in saying anything otherwise. You know, it's not. You can't just come in here and say, "Oh, it's just another game," because it's not. It's one that we've waited a long time for. I'm sure they want to come. I've read that they want to come and have this test to come to the Aviva and try and overturn us. So yeah, look, it's a huge game.
Ireland, of course, haven't beaten France in 3 Six Nations years now. It seems like Ireland have beaten everybody else in that time. Why do you think it is that Ireland haven't beaten France in so long?
Not sure. Each game was kind of different in their, obviously one of them was COVID, or two of them were in COVID, and then last one, obviously away, in an incredible atmosphere on a day where, we could have pipped it at the end, so it wasn't too much between us in the latest encounter. Obviously in the other two, they can score out of nothing. I think we got to, and in a few of those games, I remember even the first one away during COVID, we had plenty of opportunities in 5 meters out from their line, and we weren't clinical enough, and we didn't take our chances. And Test match rugby often can be skewed by the performance can be skewed by if you score a few tries and you're clinical, versus if you create 10 and you don't take any, you're in turmoil. So it's that's kind of where we are after the Welsh game, because we were very clinical, but we did a lot of things wrong in other parts of our game. So we need to learn from them going into this week.
James Lowe said yesterday that they're bigger than Ireland, but you're fitter. What do you think could swing the balance in your favour this weekend?
Yeah, but they're definitely bigger. You can see that clearly. So we need to play. We need to play quick. We need to, have clean ruck ball. That's something that we haven't had against them over the last couple of games. If you saw how many people they threw into the breakdown last year in the Stade de France, and sometimes illegally, sometimes legally. They've got some outstanding poachers. They push the boundaries definitely. But look, they're, like I said before, they're a full package team. They don't really have any weaknesses. So for us, we got to play to the best of our ability and see where that gets us.
Johnny, Romain Antomarcus said that Ireland are comfortably favourites for this game. What do you make of those comments? Do you agree with them?
I don't really mind. Like we've talked about this favourites tag. It's not something we ever mention internally. Like, what I mean. We've acknowledged that being number one in the world, the public or the press will, do this, or the opposition will do it. But ultimately, it comes down to the performance on the day. And if we're favourites, we're favourites. It doesn't really bother me if that's what he says.
Johnny, you've had some great experiences against France, and you've had your time in France, and you've some great memories. What does a game like this make you feel? When you come up against France, how do you feel going into the game?
Yeah, I think they are always big weeks. They can, often something comes out of the woodwork for me in the French week. So I'm expecting something later in the week. But look, it's always a big game. It's always, I grew up in there watching Ireland lose to France heavily every year. So to then sort of be involved, or to see the first Irish teams beat them, and then to be part of teams beating them has been amazing. And then but you still have that memory as a young kid of France coming and demolishing Ireland, and so you probably naturally feel like the underdog. At my age, probably the younger lads don't. So it's a strange mix through the squad, I think.
How significant do you feel this game will be, considering that you beat them in the World Cup later this year?
Oh, it's not something we've spoke about in terms of we're focused fully on this and making sure that we can, if we did meet them in the World Cup, it would be in their home venue. So again, it would be a totally different dynamic, whereas this is our home game, and we just want to win to progress in the championship.
Johnny, do you still approach each game with that mindset? If fit, I must play, and I must play for 80. You mentioned these there. Are you at a point where you liaise with Andy and you say, look, I'll give it my best 50 or 60 here, and I'll keep a little bit in reserve for the next day? Or must it be full on every day?
Well, I think if I said that to Andy, I think he'd drop me as captain and drop me out of the team. I try and train every day, like it matters, and come game day, it doesn't matter how long you just go and empty the tank. Obviously, I was happy to, in terms of how I felt physically at the weekend. Obviously, the confusion around the HIA and stuff like that. It's nothing I can control about that, but be ready to go for 80 this week if needed.
Just a final one for me. Stuart McCluskey sitting in the seat a few minutes ago there, and obviously referencing the fact that there had been a 7-year gap between his first and second Six Nations. I'm wondering, has it surprised the likes of you that we haven't seen more of him in an Irish shirt, and in turn, what you feel he adds?
Yeah, surprised because he's the calibre of player that he is, and you see him play for Ulster, and he's probably their, most impactful player, like in many ways, like when he's playing versus when he's not playing, it's a very different team. So, but that just shows the calibre of the players that we have, and Robbie and Bundy that have dominated that position for so long, and obviously Gary at 13, and so it's a testament to the guys that have been there that they've kept this guy out of the team because he's been outstanding for Ulster. So, and what does he bring to the team? You saw in more at the weekend than we have before in terms of his ball carrying ability, defensive ability with turning over people. That choke tackle, he's excellent at. So I think he's really grown into the role at international rugby. So it's great.